Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm one of your hosts today, Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and Mr. Alcini has the day off. I'm being joined by a dear friend, Mr. Red.Olaughlin. We'll bring him out in just a second. Our show is the business talk show, and we're going to be talking about the intersection between humanitarianism and entrepreneurship. We did have a guest who is not here, and as they say, the show must go on. Let's bring out Mr. Red.Olaughlin, who is indeed himself an entrepreneur. He's also my book coach, and he is working with me diligently as we bring out 3 more books in the next, I think, week or so. So Red is also a show host here for Talking Heads, for The Wise Ones, for Food and Our Emotions. He's an elevated listener, and he's also someone who leads his life with his heart. So let's welcome him to the program. Hello there.
Howdy. Just another wonderful day here in paradise. I'm glad that you asked me to join you this morning.
Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. And, you know, Red, something that I just said in my last sentence introducing you was about leading your life with your heart. And sometimes people feel that business and heart-centric work don't actually go together. It's more of like a boxing match, and it's all about competition, and it's all about who has the best product and the best sales. And that's not really the case as an entrepreneur. We do lead with our hearts. We do care about our clients, about our customers, about our employees, and about our associates. What are your thoughts about this?
I think there's a lot of different metrics you can measure a business by. Obviously, the number of sales, the number of contacts, the number of leads, the number of conversions, whatever it may happen to be. And some businesses are very dry, never ever see the customer. You're making something and it goes out the door, and all you have to do is adjust to whatever the situation is, whether it's let's say you're in the oil business and oil rigs are going down. Your business is kind of collapsing on itself. Well, you know, that takes a different kind of management style, a different kind of focus than when things are expanding. You can't even find enough people to hire. So I think things go back and forth. But when you start looking at any business, regardless of what it is, you know, there's some level of growth, there's some level of satisfaction that you want to get from what you're doing. And I think, Dr. JACALYN, that at some point in time, you have to have some of the softer skills of owning a business, being a business owner, and whatever those softer skills are. Obviously, we have accounting, we have finance, we get marketing, we get advertising, and some of those are pretty cut and dried. Some of them are not. And when we talked earlier today about humanitarianism, and we talked about, well, you know, what is it exactly? And it's helping other people who are suffering. You know, we're saving lives. We're trying to make a difference in their world. And, you know, I think right now in Tunisia, they have, you know, flooding and some other issues, and thousands of people are dead and without homes. We've seen that same thing happen in Ukraine with the war. It wasn't long ago. It was very common here in Haiti with the activity going on. So, and even here in the United States with the illegal immigrant issues, you see that in New York City, you see it in Chicago and California, lots and lots and lots and lots of problems. So I think any business person has to have some level of this heart-centered focus, because it's more than just a cut and dried business that we're running. We have to look at a number of different aspects of the business. Your thoughts?
Yes, I agree with you. And I think as a follow-up to that, as entrepreneurs or even as individuals, we get solicited by many parties, many entities, many people to volunteer, to donate. And I think it's important to realize that we each have something probably that's near and dear to us, whether it's happened to us or somebody in our family. And we can't possibly, at least at a certain level, you can't possibly be giving and donating to all the different causes. So we have to be judicious thinking about where should we put our money? Where should we put our time? What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I think you have your time, you have your talent, and you have your treasure. Obviously, if you have some money and you feel strongly about something, donate. There's no problem with that. You can do that anytime. But again, you have to have that archive of money, that ability to reach in, pick something out, and say, "I'm going to give it to water wells in Africa," and that's great. Our time is something else. A lot of us have time, but we don't use it very well. I had a situation where I was working in the military. I happened to be working for a couple of years out in the Bay Area in California. I had 11 units, two Coast Guard Reserve units and 9 Navy Reserve units. And I was constantly sending them to Korea or Bahrain or somewhere else for their 2-week active duty during the summer, which was usually 4 weeks because we had extra units in there. And I found very quickly that you can't keep focused on what's going on today, next week, that after literally a very short period of time, I had to shut down my Thursdays every week. Uh, Doors closed. I have to focus on who am I sending in September? Who am I sending in February? What's going on? What has to happen in between that? So there was one day a week that it was all far focused, at least 6, 8, 10, 12 months out. The rest of the week, I could pretty much handle the other things, but I don't know that we as entrepreneurs really and truly focus on that kind of long range. We have a quarterly plan, we have a business plan, we have things, but are we really looking way out into the future as to how can we project our business to make money, but also to help others, regardless of what product and or service that we offer? I know with your particular show here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network, a year ago, you probably didn't even have half the shows you have today. Now you have what, 41, 42 shows that you do. Is that correct?
41 shows.
And so for you to take on and bump that up to 44 or 50 or whatever it may have to be, that's not something you take lightly. It has to be something, is there demand? Is there an audience for it? Can it be met with whatever clientele that's out there? There's just a lot of things that has to be done in order to meet that particular criteria. So how do you plan to expand your business to make 42 or 43 or 44 shows available on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And Red, while we were broadcasting, I just want to bring something to light because this just happened. I was checking in the comments, and someone, I'm not going to mention the person's name, but someone decided to take this opportunity to promote themselves and their business. And I find that offensive, actually, because that's not what we're talking about today, and we're not giving you free advertising. So I also want people to think about your brand and how you're putting yourself out there, and where are you sharing information and feedback, and is it really the best place? So to that person who just made that comment, we will be taking the comment down because it really has nothing to do with what we're talking about here today. So Red, something else I'd really like us to go into when it comes to entrepreneurship, you mentioned about time, and time is something that really is so important. It's a gift. And when we start out in business, we have to put on so many different hats. And you mentioned about how many shows we have and how we're expanding. So I have to look when I'm looking at the platform and you and everyone who's on there, what is the best way for us to grow? It's not just about adding new shows all the time, unless the shows have value and we have people who want to do the shows, but it's about how can we get the most collaborations, the most viewership, the most number of eyeballs that are actually here on the platform. So how do you manage your business or businesses from the perspective of an eagle versus an ostrich? Because we have to do both, be both types of animals. What are your thoughts?
Well, who is your audience? Your audience is a much wider audience than mine. My audience is primarily baby boomers, more so than anyone else, primarily women 55 and older. And that's where I focus most of my research, most of my writing, most of my speaking. I'm trying to meet a particular requirement. At about 55 years of age, most couples, their kids are out on their own completely, and all of a sudden they're getting toward the end of their business career. And the main obstacle they have there in that 55 and older is their parents' health. And all of a sudden you're starting to look, I don't want to be, like my mom or my dad, when they're in their 70s or 80s. And so my focus is on health and wellness, but my primary focus is on aging, anti-aging, longevity, and just what can I do? So all of a sudden they've taken care of their kids, they've taken care of their business. Now all of a sudden their parents' health is deteriorating or at least declining. And they're saying, I don't want to be like that. And what can I do? And so they see it's not that far away. I'm going to be retired. What can I do in the next 10 years or whatever? And so that's the area that I focus in, because that's where I think I can contribute the most. So what kinds of problems does somebody 55, 65, 75 years of age have? Well, they have mental issues, they have gut issues, they got heart issues, a lot of things that can be there. So how do you focus on each one of those? And maybe the thing is, you can't focus on all of them. You have to take one at a time and say, okay, let's talk about your heart. What can you do? What should you do? And what can you do on your own? What can you do talking to your doctor? And so I have to look at it from, who is my audience? What can they do? What should they do? And I think if I do that, then I'm actually looking at helping people that need help, but maybe don't know what to do because they've never spent any time. That information is out there all over the place. Google, YouTube, lots and lots and lots of mentors. If you are, let's say you're a cake decorator or dog walker, it doesn't matter what the business is. There is so much information out there. It's almost hard to try to catch up on anything. So I think that you have to start first with, who is your customer and what can you do for them?
Yeah, I love that. It all comes down to the value that you can bring. And also, have you done any market research to determine who else is out there? Red, you really helped me with that when it comes to publishing books, because we need to know, are there other authors who put content like this out there? Is it possible that there's a holiday or some event coming up that other authors might be publishing that same day and make our opportunity to become a #1 best-selling author more restricted? So can you share a little bit about that? Because for all of the entrepreneurs out there, it might be, I'm just putting it out there, a great idea for you to get your own book published. Why would that be of value for an entrepreneur, Red?
Well, let's start off just a little bit further back. I think it's the New York Times, at least one, maybe Wall Street Journal, but studies have been done over time, and at least 80%, in some cases higher, but at least 80% of Americans at one point in time in their life says, I need to write a book, or somebody tells them, hey, you really need to write a book. But what happens in reality? They think about it. No, it's too difficult. It's too hard. And in the end game, 2%, maybe 3% actually write a book. And as well as I do, Dr. JACALYN, just writing a book doesn't mean you're going to get tons of money, because that's just not the way that the system works. It's rare when a new author sells more than 100 books in their entire author life. It's just not the way things work. So when I take on somebody, let's say that I'm taking you on and you want to write about listening, one of the things that I want to do is, who's your competition? If you don't know who they are, or how to find them, or what they're talking about, what value are you offering different than they are? How do you separate yourself from the masses? So we go through and we do a Google search, but we do the Google search inside of Amazon, and we look at listening books. Who is out there? What kind of books do they have? How big are they? How many pages? What do the covers look like? What do their table of contents look like? What is the cost? What other programs are they using with regard to their social media, their websites? So it's more than just, I want to write a book. It's what are you offering value wise that's different than what's already out there? Because now if you're saying, here's my listing deal, but I focus on children where they have a chance to really and truly learn something as they're growing and learning in school. Okay, maybe that's different than 95% of the other listening programs out there. Now you have an ability to focus in an area that, moms and dads want their kids to be better than they are. So maybe they're saying, I wish I was a better listener. Maybe my kids need to listen a little bit better. So you have a focus area that you can take and develop, and an interest area where you can talk to parents, because they're the people who buy the books. And so they want to be judicious in what they're spending their money on, but they also want to be able to help themselves and their kids. So we do a lot of customer competitor assessment. Who is your customer? How can you get to them? Do you have a mechanism that will allow you to go out on a regular basis? Do you have an email list? Do you have a website? Lots and lots and lots of questions up front that kind of focuses in, okay, maybe what you're doing right now should really be in 3 books, not just 1, because of the nature of how you're doing it. So which one do you have the most passion in? So if you have a lot of passion in this area, that's probably the one you're going to finish. If it's this big and you're only looking at this much, may not happen. So there's a lot of aspects of getting started that can prevent you from doing anything because they're just overwhelming. I can't do this. I need help. Life gets in the way. It's been 2 months since I worked on this. Might as well just give it up. So I know with you, the avenue is different. We did 1 book, and then all of a sudden, boom, a 2nd book, and then boom, 3rd, 4th, 5th. It just, it seems like this month you're putting out 4 different books. And that's kind of really rare and unusual for any author, even an experienced one. But things kind of came together that the books are not all the same. 2 are in the children's category. 1 is a credibility book, because you want to be able to say, this is my brand, this is who I am. And so that became very important. But at the same time, you also have another focus in your life that is health related, that you've committed to somebody or some group, and that focus needs attention too. And I know you work more than 24/7. It seems like you're never just sitting still, but you have the time and you have the ability, and you say, okay, I'm going to do it, and you do it. So there are things that some people can do, write 1 book a year, every 2 years, every 3 years, and other people can write 6 books a year or a book a month or whatever it may happen to be. You want to make sure you have the quality there, because you want to have value that you're adding to people that will come back and they want more and more and more. How many times have you found an author you really like and you say, what else did they write? And you start looking and you order. I mean, I do that all the time. I come across somebody, don't know him, sounds interesting. And I get involved and, what else do you write? And I start going crazy. So those are things that I think, from a perspective of being an entrepreneur or business owner, what is one way that you establish credibility in who you are? And that's writing a book. Now, sometimes that book can be used as a business card. I have a friend here in town who solicits website SEO information from big companies, but he has a small book. It's about the size of a CD card. And that book has 62 pages, and he talks about 52 different things you can do to improve your website. And he makes 6 figures a year giving that away as a business card. That's he may sell 1,000, 1,500 books over a period of time. I think that's the last time I checked. In 5 years, he sold 1,500 books. But that business card is what he uses that as an introduction. It establishes credibility. If you're inconsistent in being able to tell people, what do you do? How do you help them? And you're kind of rambling. Maybe you need a small book that provides those basic answers to the 10 important questions of what do you do? Doesn't have to be a big book. It can be a 32-page ebook. It can be a 70-page paperback, almost a pamphlet that you can use. Some people use a smaller book as a giveaway, a freebie, so that they can at least get into somebody else's sphere of influence. So the books can be very, very important because they provide you personally the credibility of, I'm a published author. I speak, I write, I do things in this particular area. So that separates you apart from someone else. So as you're talking, you say, well, in the last book that I wrote, I talked about this and this and this. That sets you apart from somebody who just talks about this and this and this, because they don't have that other backup material that gives them that little boost over someone else. Your thoughts?
Well, Red, very well stated. Of course, now we have a new book project. Thank you so much for that. Now we have a book project for just driving people to get to know me and who I am and what it is that I do and how I can bring value to them. So I'm excited to put that right there onto the to-do list. So I think
Don't do it this month.
No, we're not doing it this month. This month, our hands are full. So we're not doing it this month. I think something else that's really important, and you and I are doing it, done it also with Roland Friedel, as well as a number of other people, is that you mentor each other, you coach each other, you provide feedback so that you're not in a void. And I think when you run things by somebody and get their opinion, get their thoughts, that really helps you as an entrepreneur also. So it's that kind of collaboration, brainstorming that can really help you clear your mind as well as welcome new things into your mind. So I thank you for that, and Roland's and many others as well. Something else I wanted to talk about when it comes to entrepreneurship, because I think this is really a big difference, at least for me. When I was in corporate, you were in corporate, and then being an entrepreneur. So things come up in our lives when we are in corporate, and we can go to HR, go to our boss and say, I am taking a vacation day or vacation week, or I'm taking time off, and that's what it is. But when you're an entrepreneur, there's nobody to go to and say, hey, this just happened and I need some time off. So recently my mother passed away, my uncle passed away. I've been traveling back and forth doing various things. The water heater stopped working. There's a flood in the house, but I have to still keep working because I have people that I've made commitments to. I've accepted money that in exchange I have to deliver. What are your thoughts about really being fully committed as an entrepreneur? And then maybe it's not for everyone. Maybe people are better suited to be in corporate as opposed to making this type of commitment that you have and I have and others have.
Well, interesting question in many regards, because you're offering value to people. Now, you can offer that value as a marketing expert within a company, and you're helping the salespeople learn how to get that message across where they're more effective. They're earning more for the company. And there's a lot to be said for that. There's no reason that you cannot be very, very good in a niche. But when you convert that niche to something else, well, I've never been an accountant. I don't know much about that aspect of things. My taxes, again, I do them, but it's not from a business perspective. So when I put on that hat as an entrepreneur, I have to realize that now all of a sudden I got to empty the trash can. I got to order products. I got to do things that other people always did and I never worried about. So to dive into that aspect of, not everybody is set up for that. And we see that all the time. Oh, you're a great cook. You ought to open a restaurant or whatever. And they do. And 6 months later, it's bust because there's too many things that, on paper, it looked good. In reality, it didn't pan out the way it should for whatever reason. I mean, how many businesses went under during the pandemic because the economy was against them? If you're in an area that it doesn't matter whether there's a pandemic or not, great. You have a business that's going to thrive because people need that service. I think last week we had a guy on one of our shows, The Wise Ones, Brian Penso, if I remember. One of the many businesses he has is electricity. He provides electricity providers to people. Well, it doesn't matter whether there's a pandemic or not. People will use electricity. So he has some businesses of what he works that are pandemic proof because people need that on a daily basis. But he has other ones, depending on whether the construction is going up or going down, that he can take and utilize. Okay, I can meet that need. But he said something very interesting, that the fact that you need systems so that the business can run itself, where you can go out and go fishing or do whatever you want to do. You can't sit there 24/7 in your business, and you can. Yes, I'm not saying you can't, but you can. But you're not taking that time to enjoy what you've built and be able to grow it. It takes a different mindset to start a business than it takes a business that's making so much money and now you want to double it. And a lot of companies are at that level. Okay, I want to double sales, and they find it extremely difficult. I've been in several companies that they're at that level. They make a conscious decision. They're going to do some new products. And they're not dismal failures, but the plan is not executed as well, or there's some distractions that happen that were not planned for. Sometimes I have this product release, but we don't have any plan that if the economy changes or our customer base changes or technology changes, that we can say, whoa, that's one of the key elements of this product release. If this happens, we don't do it. Or if this happens, we double down on what we're doing. And so I think part of it's the process by which we grow. Do we have a plan to grow? Do we have the systems in place that if I need to take a week off because I have COVID, because I have a need to go to Italy for a week, whatever that reason is, it's not important. But the business should be able to survive on its own without any real problems. But a lot of us are so tied up in that business, we hang on to it so tightly that every single decision has to come through us. And as such, we stress ourselves out. We become less efficient over time. And in the big scheme of things, we actually open up our future health to things that we could control now, that if we did, we would not have an increased risk of having something happen down the road. Now, for the entrepreneur, that's part of that growing process. You have to be able to, do I have somebody I can use as a bookkeeper? Do I have somebody I can, whatever that may happen to be? Am I doing all my networking myself? How do I do these things myself, but how can I also get them done through other people? I know that you're constantly looking for people that can help you in doing the production engineering or the graphic design. So there are a lot of things that we can piecemeal out, get people to do for us, and it just makes our job a lot easier. Now I have an extra 2 hours a day, an extra 2 hours a week that I can now take and expand things. So how has your business grown as a result of you thinking, I'm not going to say outside the box, but what can you get done through someone else that now allows you more freedom to do what needs to be done that you couldn't do before?
Thanks, Red. Great questions as always. So just last week, we had a production engineer come on and I trained her. She already had 2 years experience on StreamYard, and then she took over the show, really freed me up. And I actually had little tears come down my face because it was sort of like, I don't have any children, but it was kind of like birthing something and giving somebody the keys to the kingdom and saying, okay, I trust you. This is my baby. And she's done a great job. So that was really liberating. And prior to that, we have a team of people who work on our channel from a marketing perspective, search engine optimization perspective. And that's really been liberating as well, because I was doing all of it. And you really can't. You can't do everything. And I think as entrepreneurs, there are certain things that we really love. And then there's things that we're not so crazy about. So I was doing all the accounting. I got an accountant instead. I mean, they're just things that take up time that I'm not as passionate about. these other things such as writing books and speaking and doing courses. And then, of course, I love meeting new people. We have somebody new who's starting on the platform. We're very excited. He came to us through a Google search and was a guest, and now is going to have a show. So that really excites me. More people coming to the platform. When I hear about collaboration, so and so met with so and so, and now they're doing something, that really means a lot, and that warms my heart. So that's part of my role, is to make sure that people are able to collaborate and there's no competition, so to speak. So as I look at how do I manage my time and how am I growing this business as well as my other business, it's really about connections and networking and bringing value and having people on this platform who are bringing value, not just to the platform, but also to the other people who are here.
Well, you have the issue of time and you have the issue of money. When you first started out, you were hiring somebody to do the production engineering aspect of your show very early on, and you hired that person to train you how to do it, right? And that's,
He didn't know that at the time.
but it was one of those things that was a natural progression. If you're going to save money because you need that return on your investment, okay, I'm willing to take the time to learn how to do that so I can do it. I don't have to pay that other person to do it. Now I have more money coming in the door. I'm not spending as much money. So I have that aspect. I'm saving money, but I'm not saving time because now I'm doing something else. So there's a trade-off. I'm spending more time doing something, but I'm getting more of a reward on my money going out the door is not as great. So I'm saving something. And then maybe somebody can take and make those little images that you can put on your YouTube channel for each individual show. Well, yeah, you can do it yourself. I know you do your own websites, but each one of those things takes a little bit of time. But if somebody can do it and they do it economically and they do it a lot, okay, I can back away from that and go do something else. So there's a lot of decisions. What can you farm out real time, virtually, whatever, that maybe you should, maybe that does make sense that if I spend an extra, $50, $100 here, there, whenever, that frees me up to do something else that might bring in $500. There's a lot of, or maybe I just need the time. Maybe and truly I need that extra 4 or 5 hours on that day for nothing else but just unwinding, for stress whatever it may happen to be. There's a lot of things, but time and money are two of those things that, whether you work for a company, you're in the military, it doesn't matter what's going on. Time and money are trade-offs. And as an entrepreneur, it's the whole business. How much time do you put into it? There's just so many hours in a day that you can be focused on your business and helping others and growing. It's just almost impossible to take that and just, I'm just going to do it. And it works. So it doesn't always work.
Yeah, I agree with you, Red. And something else I'd like to add on to that is, and you see this in corporate also, you have leaders who are really interested in grooming the people on their team to one day take over for them. And then you have leaders who work from a scarcity mindset where they don't want anyone to be as good or better than they are. And so for me here, this is not about me. I don't want to be the brand of USA Global TV and Radio. I want this platform to sustain on its own, that if I were no longer here, that the people who are on the platform, like yourself, are at the same caliber of professionalism that I believe I am after doing 5,000 shows. Does that mean that I can't learn? No, of course not. So my role is to train people so that they have the confidence. We have plenty of people who come here and say, I could never do a show by myself. I have to do it with you. And I'll say to them, okay, but you should be able to do it by yourself. You should know in your heart, let's say you like doing it with me, that's one thing. But for a person to feel like they could never do it by themselves, that's not where I want people to be coming from. I want them to say, you know what, I got this. I don't care who the guest is. I've got it figured out. I'm going to show up and deliver at the highest quality. So that's something that I take very seriously. And that's what I want for everybody who's here on our platform.
I tell my wife, one of the things that I always try to do is improve quality wherever I'm at. And that is usually found in most restaurants or service organizations, that something's wrong and people need to know. Well, I have no problem telling people. I was in quality for a couple of decades or more. And it's one of those aspects that I recognize, if you change this, it'll become better. But it's a part of me to make things better around me. And whether I hire somebody better than me, as you suggested, if I hire somebody better than me, well, that means that person can take my job and I can move up. There's no scarcity there. Or that person can take my job and I don't have to worry about the organization because I get a really good opportunity to move to somewhere else. I was being interviewed for a job quite a many years ago. And at that point in time, there was a transition between people working 20, 30 or more years in a particular business, and that's all they were. Well, this was a small company, and everybody there was related some way, shape, or form. They had been there forever and ever. And I had been caught back and forth with the different layoffs in the electronics industry, the oil industry. And they're sitting there, and one of the questions I said, "Oh, I see you've been, you have a lot of different companies you work for." And I said, "Yes. And what you're getting from me is the fact that I now have experience when this industry goes up or goes down, when these things change." I said, somebody who worked, and I was very emphatic. I said, somebody who works in a business that doesn't change, you don't have that same level of understanding of what the outside forces are. Maybe that was my downfall. I didn't get offered that job, but it was something I felt strongly about. But I usually always try to hire the fit for somebody to replace me, because whether I go up or I go out to another company, I know that's going to happen, but I have to be able to have that infrastructure and trained so that they can take over. It's part of the system that Brian Pensa was talking about. You have to have a system in place that allows you that flexibility of being able to do things that you couldn't do if you're tied down. Now you're sitting here with the USA Global TV and Radio Network. You've expanded it, and now you're taking on another expansion, not through the number of shows you have, but through the outlets that program can go. You want to talk a little bit about that just for a brief moment, Dr. JACALYN?
Sure, go ahead.
Now, you have more of a knowledge on that one than I do, but you're now expanding into some areas that 2 months ago that you were not in and probably weren't even fully aware of. But you're getting ready to transition, I think, this week into some shows that now are going in a wider direction than what you were a month ago. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, absolutely. So the ultimate goal for me, for this channel, for this network, is for us to be running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And in order to do that, obviously there could be some reruns, but you need to have content that people are interested in watching, and it has to be different content. So although if you were to go to any of the streaming channels or mainstream television, you're going to see there's different types of shows. Although some of the channels, maybe it's the same topic, maybe it's an animal show, and every show is about animals. So I want to have as many different types of shows here that all have one thing in common in terms of the foundation, and they're all uplifting, they're all educational. So even when I'm not on a show, I like to watch our shows here because I'm always learning something. And this morning here, it was really chaotic. I did a show with Diane before this, and now this with you. And I'm learning, and it brings me joy. It takes me to a higher place. So that's what I want people to take away from watching our programs, is that they're leaving with education, hope, and inspiration. And if we can make them laugh, if we can entertain them in some way, I think that's important. So with the new shows that are coming, that's all part of, they have to fit into what it is that we're offering here. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Entertain, educate. For me, when I'm providing information, my first level is awareness. We're talking about something, maybe they're sort of aware of it, but let's get a good foundation in awareness. Okay, this is really what this is about. And then the next part is education, maybe a little bit deeper than they need to know, but it provides them a mechanism that now, if they need to take action, they can talk to their doctor, they can talk to their pharmacist, they can talk to a professional, a nutritionist, whatever it may happen to be, and understand that there's options there that they just don't have to take a pill in order to address a problem. And so my particular focus is on natural options. And when I do my research, I'm looking for what are those things. If there is something that this causes this to happen and this causes that to happen, can I stop that? Can I slow it down? Can I speed it up? And if I know what those are, and it's just a matter of eat more spinach, okay, fine. I know what to do, but I also know why it works. And sometimes understanding the why behind something is really and truly the objective, because I don't like doing this, but I understand why I'm doing it, and I'm going to continue doing it because I have to do it. And then because of the why. And that's, I think, one of the aspects of your particular USA Global TV radio network enterprise is the fact that there is a lot of awareness, there is a lot of education, there's a lot of definition of how can you improve yourself in your business, your hobbies, your interest, whatever it may happen to be. And that's one of the reasons why I really and truly love doing the shows that are here on your network.
Thank you so much, Red. And as you know, it takes work. We don't just show up here and go, oh, let's just, no, you have to be mentally prepared. You have to set aside the time. If you have people you're living with in your home, you have to say, hey, I'm not going to be available. Please keep things quiet. If you've got animals, you've got to figure out what to do with them. If you've got people coming to the door, and then you have to be mentally present. And of course, the thing that we really pride ourselves here on is elevated listening. So you are fully engaged and present. You're not looking at your phone, looking around, like thinking about something. You have to be here because the audience can sense that. So I feel like it's a big commitment. It's a commitment in many different ways. And so I honor you for doing that because you've got a number of shows here. I'd love to have you talk a little bit about those shows as we close out for today.
One of the shows that Dr. JACALYN and I do on a regular basis is Food and Our Emotions. And recently, Dr. JACALYN suggested that maybe we look at some different diets and how do those diets affect us? How are they comparable to each other? What health aspects are present in them? Are there some issues that we don't understand? And so the Food and Our Emotions has taken a turn slightly, but not much, from food to diet, because in a diet, you do have a choice of foods. And if you understand why that diet is there, is it to lose inches because you're burning fat? Is it for cardiovascular health? Is it for hypertension? A lot of different diets are set up for different things. So Food and Emotions right now is on a major pathway of what are these diets. This particular week on Thursday morning, we're going to be starting to look at some international diets. We already looked at the Mediterranean diet, but when you look out there, there's a lot of other international diets that we as Americans are not even aware of. So we're going to go down that road. Another show I do with Dr. JACALYN is the Corner Bookstore. I don't do that one with her, but I do that one by myself. And that one I only do once a month. But every week, the Corner Bookstore is on there with a new author, somebody who has published a book or additional books. And we get a chance to look at the inside. How did that thought come about? How did you write it? A lot of aspects. Well, how are you marketing? Some people are very, very successful at marketing their books, and other people are not. So we get to look at the rest of the story, so to speak, with regard to writing a book. Sometimes just writing the book isn't enough. You need to get the book into somebody else's hands. A show that I enjoy doing with Dr. JACALYN every week is called The Wise Ones. And this is a show that I'm not saying literally everyone can be a guest on, but if you've been around the block more than a few times, there is an opportunity that you have lessons learned, wisdom, values that you can share with a worldwide audience. And this audience with the USA Global and TV radio network is very global, much greater than I ever thought. And so you have people that we can talk about this and that, and it applies not just to the United States, just not to the southern United States, it applies worldwide. And the guests that we have on there are people who have some real wisdom to share. So we're looking for the wise ones, but we want to be able to add value to your life. I have another show that I do called Talking Heads, where I use my researching ability to look into a particular topic. I've done Alzheimer's, I've done cancer, I've done weight loss. Now I'm on pain control, pain management. What is the process in the body that goes on at the cellular level that I have some level of control over, that I can mitigate the level of pain that I perceive and be more functional without having to take an aspirin or Tylenol or something else. That's this week. In a couple of weeks, it's going to be a different topic. But there are things with our health and our wellness that if we understand just a little bit more in detail, that makes sense. Maybe I'll try that. And it's part of that. Now, some other programs that Dr. JACALYN and I are talking about that will probably come up here shortly, but those are the ones that I'm intimately involved in with her and her network on a regular basis.
Fantastic, Red. Thank you. And what's the best way for people to reach you, especially if they want to call outside the United States? I think the country code is 01.
Well, I prefer just give me a call, 281-687-1188. Again, 281-687-1188. Or just write me an email. I'm red.olaughlin@gmail.com. That's red like the color, red.olaughlin, OLAUGHLIN@gmail.com. My website is red.olaughlin.com. No dot between the red and the O'Laughlin, but red.olaughlin.com has my contact information also. So send me an email, give me a call. Either one of those two will work very, very nicely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Red. Thanks for being available today and for another great episode where we're providing value. I look forward to seeing you again soon on another show.
Thank you so very much. Take
Thanks,
care,
bye
and
for now.
we'll catch you later on. Bye now.
Okay, bye. Thank you so much to every one of you who are watching or listening. Please go over to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV and Radio, and click subscribe so that you can be made aware of all the fascinating content that we are sharing and delivering. We're sharing and caring. Our next show is coming up momentarily. It is Talking Heads with Caroline Heward, and we look forward to having you there. Let's watch a sponsorship from Zane Carson Carruth, and we'll be back shortly with another program. Bye.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Bella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Bella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Bella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.